Recently, some very tragic news has hit my feed. The news of the passing of Rob Reiner, a filmmaker who's known for films like This Is Spinal Tap and The Princess Bride. Longtime Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner were found dead in their Los Angeles home Sunday. A source close to the Reiner family confirmed to NBC News. The couple appeared to have died from stab wounds, the source said. In an update Sunday night, the LAPD police chief, Alan Hamilton, said officers responded to the home in Brentwood on the west side of Los Angeles at about 3:40 p.m. and found two people dead inside. Hamilton did not identify them, but said a death investigation was underway and that the LA County coroner would release the victims' identities. Hamilton said detectives were not seeking anyone as a suspect or as a person of interest until they conduct a full crime scene investigation. Now, I personally did not know just how much Rob Reiner has impacted my life as a person who lives in Los Angeles.
Living in LA and hearing the news about Rob Reiner passing over the weekend was pretty devastating. Rob Reiner's legacy will extend far beyond the American film canon. And specifically for me, at least, Rob Reiner was not just a legendary filmmaker. This was someone who quite literally spearheaded early childhood development policies here in California. When I think about Rob Reiner, I think about being 5 years old and walking into a WIC clinic with my mom and seeing the First Five logo. A really quick explainer, but in the late 1990s, Proposition 10 was passed by Californians. Mind you, Rob Reiner was the architect of Prop 10, which was basically a tobacco tax that helped create First Five, which was California's first early childhood funding system, which in simpler terms means that all the funding that was generated by this tobacco tax would then be funneled into First Five. This meant that local clinics, nonprofits, and community-based organizations were to be giving money to support and expand their maternal care, their prenatal care, to food access, to parental support, to postpartum care. I think for me, at least, that's how I'm going to remember Rob Reiner, and I just think he saw a gap and he thought, I'm going to spearhead and be the architect behind Prop 10 to support families who don't have access to equitable care. He understood the importance of the first 5 years of a child's life being determinative and saw the connection between those critical first 5 years and the potential social and health outcomes that arise decades later.
As the case would develop, they started to understand that their son, Nick Reiner, was likely responsible for the crime. Nick Reiner, a son of director Rob Reiner, and his wife, Michelle, has been arrested and booked on murder charges for their killings. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonald announced Monday. Authorities initially said Nick Reiner, 32, was being held on $4 million bail, but police later said in a statement that he was being held without bail. The Los Angeles Police Department said in a statement that police responded to the home Sunday at around 3:40 p.m. local time. The police did not provide details about what led investigators to suspect Nick Reiner in these deaths, saying only that the investigation revealed he was allegedly responsible. Reiner was located and arrested at approximately 9:15 p.m. Sunday. The police said the case will be presented to prosecutors on Tuesday. Now, Rob Reiner was an outspoken critic of Donald Trump, and I wanted to show you a few clips of how he felt about him.
You have one candidate, Trump, who actually tells you he's going to govern like an authoritarian. He says it. Yeah. It's not a mystery. And you've got to make a choice. You have to make a choice. Do we want fascism, or do we want to continue the 248 years of self-rule?
I'm Rob Reiner, and America, we've got a problem. We've been attacked by a foreign enemy power, and our president refuses to defend us.
This is just the beginning, and people have to understand our democracy is being taken away from us. Make no mistake, we have a year before this country becomes a full-on autocracy and democracy completely leaves us. And we're looking at the election in 2026, and Donald Trump knows. He knows that in a free and fair election, he will lose. He will lose the House. The House will flip and will become in Democratic hands. People care about their pocketbook issues, the price of eggs. They care about their health care, and they should. Those are the things that directly affect them. But if they lose their democracy, all of these rights, the freedom of speech, the freedom to pray the way you want, the freedom to protest and not go to jail, not be sent out of the country with no due process. All these things will be taken away from them.
You have a complete and utter lying buffoon. I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth. He's a fraud. He lies. He cheats people. Everything that comes out of his mouth virtually is a lie. And he's a con man. And if you look at what he's done with his career and how he's tricked people into things, it's abhorrent. I never liked George W. Bush, his policies, but I didn't hate the guy. I hate this man. I've never hated a politician. I can't not hate somebody who bilks innocent people out of money, life savings. And we've seen it. With that Trump University, he took people's money, $35,000, wiped these people out, and is being sued for it. He steals money from charities. I'm not making this stuff up. You have a
You know what? Yeah. Fuck yeah. I mean, and that will always be the thing that will get me the most about this bullshit. Like, Donald Trump is a fucking scam artist. And I feel like for people who are just vaguely educated, like not even like 12D, like chess level educated, like you can see it. It's so obvious, right? Like every little scandal is so slimy, and so much of what he has is built on tricking people, fooling people into getting rid of their life savings, basically. Like it is really fucked up, but it's working. And that is a real indictment of where we're at, where someone could publicly scam the country several times over and be voted president twice. Holy shit, man. So because Trump is a little bitch baby, he did not allow Rob Reiner to pass in peace, and he felt the need to share his perspective of it. And a lot of people are saying that it is one of the most humiliating things they've ever seen a president say. And frankly, I don't know if we can get lower than we've already gone, but I think this is pretty low. So I'm actually going to let Kyle Kulinski read it because I just love his little Trump voice that he does. I am watching Secular Talk right now. I'm actually quite interested to know what sources are you guys watching? What news sources are you guys watching right now? I go between Secular Talk and Chris Norland these days.
The most pathetic statements I think I've ever seen from a U.S. president. Take a look at this. Here's what Trump said. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. The fact that he has to make this about himself, the fact that he brings that up and mocks this man in his death and smears this man in his death, he continues. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. So, I mean, look, there aren't even words for how disgusting this is. This is supposed to be not just the most powerful man in the country, the most powerful man in the world. And this is his reaction to somebody getting murdered by his own son. Now, of course, the point that people are making is, weren't the right-wingers just losing it and flipping out? And didn't they get 600 people fired for things they said in the wake of Charlie Kirk being killed?
And on that note, I wanted to look at what Rob Reiner actually had to say about Charlie Kirk's death.
When you first heard about the murder of Charlie Kirk, what was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Well, horror, absolute horror. And I unfortunately saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and That should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, that the memorial they had, was exactly right. And totally, I believe I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful, and absolutely, she forgave his assassin, and I think that is admirable.
Okay, so keep in mind that that's what he said about Charlie Kirk's passing, right? And that's what Donald Trump said about his passing, right? And I'll say this. I personally do not believe that people should be killed because of what they believe and how they express their beliefs. I don't believe that. I don't think that that is a world that I want to live in, right? And for Donald Trump to choose to take this tragedy and twist it into something about himself, I think is really, really quite dark. Really quite dark, right? He was, I think, a very good critic of Donald Trump. A lot of the things that I heard him say were very on point. And I understand why Donald Trump wasn't too terribly fond of him. But this crossed a line, in my opinion. It really, really, really crossed a line. Of course, the rumor is that Donald Trump has dementia and is not doing too terribly well. And that's a big reason why maybe he's doing some of this. But at the end of the day, there used to be a certain standard that we at least pretended to have when it came to the president, right? And that's gone out the window. And I really think that this is just a sign of how our culture is slipping. And that's the thing that's kind of fascinating to me about this. You listen to a lot of these people talk about wanting to protect their civilization, and all they're doing is advocating for things that I think are quite the antithesis to civilization, right? What is this communicating other than it is completely appropriate for him to take a tragedy and make it about, I guess, the criticism that he had for him? Like, I think a lot of people overuse that term narcissistic and narcissism, but I don't know if there's anyone who embodies it more than Donald Trump. Down to the fact that people are afraid to criticize him. It is the right thing to do to criticize Donald Trump. And it is a little scary to me that there are people who don't see that. This should be a line for certain people, but it won't be. It won't be, right? This is not going to push, I think, anyone who's already Team Trump out of that camp. And that is kind of the sad thing, because from where I'm sitting, if civilization collapses, it will be because people on his end decided to do it that way, to force this idea that empathy was a bad thing, that kindness, just general kindness, being able to read the room and caring a little bit about like how people are going to feel about how you express yourself. Like, these are basic things that I think are cornerstones to building society, to building civilization. But they're kind of trying to normalize this idea that these things aren't important. And there are some people who are even identifying with the idea that these things are not important, that they're more masculine, more manly if they have less empathy, they have less of a desire to care for those around them. And it's truly an antisocial attitude. It really is. You want to live in a society where women are having children and people are successful. You can't really do it without a certain degree of common decency. And I think a lot of that decency is truly going out the window with Donald Trump. But, you know, as I've said many times at this point, I've sort of expected that for some time now. Like, none of where we are right now is shocking to me. And most of it isn't shocking to me because of the fact that I've been on here talking about this for so long. It's still a conversation. We shouldn't be accepting this idea that criticizing the president is some sort of derangement, some sort of syndrome, right? And I thought it was actually kind of funny that he used that phrasing because it's something that we've actually seen through history many times. When slaves tried to free themselves, that was called a syndrome. When women wanted to live without men, that was called a syndrome, right? All of these very rightful, in my opinion, criticisms are often folded into a syndrome by people who have power and can use that diagnosis to oppress. And really, if any of this was true, we wouldn't have to do this. We wouldn't have to make it a syndrome and just make sure that there's enough people in power who agree that it's a syndrome. If this was true, none of this would need to be done. These ideas would maintain themselves, but they don't because they can't. And I think that Rob Reiner was really good at calling that out. And the thing I'll say about this is a lot of Rob Reiner's films, the bit that I have seen, they do address a lot of the issues that we are experiencing right now. And I really appreciate that at the time that he was here, he decided to use his ability to help and to advocate for other people. And I think that Donald Trump doesn't like the Rob Reiners of the world because of the fact that he's actually able to do that, right? Like, there are some people who have this desire to help and give, and that makes them praised, right? And Rob Reiner was clearly a man who was praised because of the good that he did for others. There are people who have been forever impacted by what he's done, even beyond what he was expected to do. And all Donald Trump is really ever going to be known for is enriching himself and I guess doing it better than everyone else. I think in the coming years, when we compare these two men's legacies, Rob Reiner's is going to be the more impressive one. And I think that that's probably what breaks him up inside. So anyway, that's what I had to say about this. I feel really, really sorry for the fact that they had to pass away in the way that they did. There are still things being uncovered. I saw some news story that said that it may have been related to drugs. I'm not 100% sure. Things are still unfolding, and I don't really want to put anything out there if I don't have the information. But I wanted to share my thoughts about Donald Trump's statements about this because I felt like it was a moment that we should talk about. I'm not going to make a point of talking about this man a lot on my channel. And I think a lot of you guys have probably figured out that I am becoming slightly less political these days. And when I say political, I mean I am making deliberate content about politics and all of the happenings of politics. I think I will continue to be quite political on here, but in a very different way. And something that I'm really trying to focus on is finding ways that are sustainable for me to do that and more creative for me to do that. And there's a lot of things I'm trying to do with my hands right now that are very much related to the time we're in. And I kind of want to share some of that stuff with you guys. So you guys may see some of that stuff coming up, but I feel like I've said basically everything I could say about Donald Trump. I'm sure that there will be more, but it doesn't make sense to come here and be shocked because it's not shocking. It's all of it's expected. It's so predictable. It is in fact so predictable that I want another show. I want something else. Can we just fast forward through this season? It's not a good season. It's a very heavy-handed season. The makeup department is really terrible. It's trying to be a period piece, but people have too much plastic surgery for that to be believable. It's just a bit too much. And I'm bored. And not everyone needs to be a blonde. Not everyone needs to be a blonde, okay? Not everybody. Not everybody, okay? So I'm hoping we'll move past this, but I don't think we will unless we acknowledge these things for what they are. But I don't think that's my responsibility. So I'm going to be homesteading and looking cute doing it. Anyway, on that note, I will talk to you guys later. As per usual, I want you to always remember and to never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.